It's possible if you don't listen to LBC or haven't read or come across one of the 45 odd books that Iain Dale has written that you probably don't know who he is, but he is quite phenomenal. And he was the first openly gay Conservative candidate in 2005 for a parliamentary election. And he still writes, or does he still write? I'm not sure he does still write. And certainly last night, there must be a big question mark over whether he's going to write for the in-house magazine called Conservative Home. Because yesterday, in a was it Any Questions? The thing on Radio 4, anyway. He launched a stinging attack on the deputy chairman of a stinging and justified attack on the deputy chairman of the Conservative Party. And Nick Gibb, who's a sort of small fry MP who was also on the programme, was talking about Lee Anderson and and how the government is tackling the problem of a government week on week out tackling the problem of small boats. Well, and then Iain Dale leapt in. You can have a small boats stop the boats week, but then it scuppered when the deputy chairman tells people to F off back to France, and then the Secretary of State for Justice defends it, and then number 10 approves it. That's what he calls a disgrace. I entirely agree with him. The roar of approval from the radio audience was extraordinary. And if Huey Green, do you remember Huey Green from Opportunity Knocks? If Huey Green were still alive and was still operating that programme, the clapometer would have been well over the edge. And Nick Gibb's response was judged to be completely irrelevant, just verbiage. I think Iain Dale has put his finger on one of the main problems, and Lee Anderson has sort of encapsulated what is wrong with the Conservative Party, why so many people that I know have either abandoned their Conservative cards. I don't think people get cards anymore. Their Conservative membership, or they've just decided they're not going to vote at the next election. Now, of course, there'll be the people below who say, you don't know what you're talking about. But the problem is the YouTube algorithm just feeds you what you want to hear. You're living in an echo chamber, a bubble, which is telling you day on, day out that everybody talks about small boats and everybody thinks the small boats are abhorrent. Look, let me make one thing really clear about small boats and about the people being trafficked over to this country. Many of the people being trafficked over to this country, let's forget about the genuine refugees, and there's plenty of those coming across in small boats, particularly from Afghanistan, because they've given up hope that we in the UK are going to keep our word. It's astonishing, isn't it? And they feel frightened and in fear of their life, and we are doing nothing to help, although we said we would. That's called dishonesty on our part. So let's forget about them for a moment, and let's think about what you call illegal migrants. Well, let's imagine illegal migrants. The majority of those illegal migrants are people who have been trafficked here, who have been bullied into hitching a ride with a known smuggler, a known trafficker who is probably saying that if you go to the UK by this very dangerous route, I will look after you and I will cover your fare, which means you just have to work for me for the next 2 or 3 years, but you will never pay that money off. And more than that, it's not simply a financial transaction, because those people who have engineered the trafficking have got their eye on your family. So when the police knock on the door and raid the cannabis farm or whatever you're working on, you can't breathe a word, because you know that your family is going to get threatened or beaten, or probably a message has already been sent to you with a beating and a phone call. And you, the poor little victim, because you're a victim, you keep your mouth shut and you go to prison, victimized again, and again, and again, and again. And Suella Braverman, she's not tackling the problem at source. She's attacking the victims. And yet the problem at source can easily be attacked and addressed by citing centres for people to apply for asylum or to work in this country. Centres in Turkey, centres in Albania, centres in Syria, centres in Lebanon, centres in Libya, centres along the coast of France, to deter that boat trip across the Channel. And I think actually even if we set up 20 of those centres, we would be spending less money building and staffing those centres than we are giving money to France, which is simply being used to line people's pockets while they do the job that they would already be doing. It's madness. And more money being given to Turkey for what? More madness. There is only one way to stop this problem, and that is to make the trafficker's job redundant. And Edi Rama was very clear. He said, come to Albania, site your offices in the north of Albania where the problem is. But Suella Braverman knew better. Suella Braverman put police in the airport, or put her agents in the airport. What is the point of doing that? Nobody is travelling by plane. And if they are travelling by plane, they've got a different deal. Or she put posters, which mean nothing. Or she put adverts in Facebook, which are only seen by tourists. Posters? Well, we saw the sort of posters that you ignore. Maya Tusi ran a wonderful piece yesterday about posters plastered around the beaches of Spain, telling people about falling rocks and about jellyfish attacks and about how far it is. It's a 3.5 mile journey from here to the beach when you can actually see it. And these posters are on bits of paper, really. They clearly are not authentic. But they might, they are a sort of gesture. That's the same sort of gesture that Suella Braverman is making to the people smugglers and to migrants who want to come to this country. It means nothing. And she's been told what would work. In fact, she's been begged for help in making this work. But she knows best. She knows best. Well, have a look at her record of success and see whether or not the I know best really works. What has she actually achieved with her I know best? Nothing.